Welcome to Between Over and Next with your hosts, Holli and Robert, a happily married couple who explore the space between what was, what is, and what's to come. From career changes to navigating life's uncertainties, this dynamic duo will empower you to live your happiest life at every age and stage. So, get ready because your journey with Holli and Robert starts now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Between Over and Next. Hi, Holli.
Hi, Robert. I think more now than ever before about the word between because of the title of our podcast. Do you?
I do. I thought about it the other day.
Share.
Well, I got a haircut, and when you're between haircuts, your hair doesn't look so good. There's a time, like an ideal time between haircuts, but there's a time when you're between haircuts that you know you need a new haircut. And that's where I was the other day. So that's why, those of you watching a video, I've had my hair cut.
Actually, so have I, Robert. And I've actually also colored my hair, which is another between moment, going from the gray hair that I really do not prefer, and that's all it is a preference, to being a brunette. And this is how I would like to be always. So thank you, Kevin. Shout out to Kevin and Joanne for making us so beautiful in our mane on our head.
Well, I figured that in the next few weeks, we're going to be in a lot of photographs. So I wanted to look my best.
Actually, Kevin also spruces up my layers. And the between moment is part of that layer, right? That middle layer between over and next. Even though it's the first word, like the ampersand is that middle.
Right.
One of our first few episodes, we talked about the words between over and next. But every week, it becomes more thoughtful, thinking about those moments of transition. And between is a transitional word. And today's episode, we're going to talk about something we all experience a lot. All people, men, women, every faith, culture, it is universal. And that is the intersection of patience and pause. They are intrinsically connected because patience is the ability to embrace stillness and wait without frustration, while pause is the deliberate act of stopping to reflect, creating that space for patience to thrive. We all have that hustle and bustle of life, the overwhelm, the decision-making, but pausing is an essential skill.
Yes. And I think it's something that you learn because you can't go through life living purely on impulse. What our impulse is, many of times, to do something needs to be overcome by patience, by that pause, to reflect on, well, is the next thing that I'm going to say in the heat of this moment the right thing? Or do I need to take a breath and be more mindful of the next words out of my mouth?
This universal idea happens in the quiet moments between action and reflection. And we need to view pauses as essential intervals in our evolution of being. Patience, like you just said, is learned. It's not a passive thing. It is very purposeful. It is an active choice. It's not just about waiting, but it is about maintaining a sense of peace and trust during everyday challenges and life's unpredictable transitions. Importantly, we want you to give yourself permission to reflect, to recharge, to reframe your thoughts, your actions, your what's next. It's also important not to rush. Patience, it touches every aspect of our lives, personally, professionally. And it also reminds us to embrace those in-between spaces, because it truly is where we grow. We recorded this episode knowing that the Jewish New Year is upon us. And this is a sacred in-between space for Robert and I, because we were both raised as Jews. And when we went to temple, we were reminded to take a pause at the beginning of this Jewish New Year, 5785. It really is an opportunity to look inward.
Right. And I think in a lot of ways, it's a testament to human nature that we are directed to pause during this holiday and to reflect on the past year and think about the year ahead. And in a lot of ways, for many people, not for us necessarily, because we are much more mindful of our lives, but for many people, this time of year is maybe the one time in which they do actually take a pause and reflect. Just the matter of the directive to stop and to take a break and to look inward, that in and of itself shows that it's something that we probably need to do more than just once a year.
When we did go to temple during the High Holy Days, which is Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we were reminded to listen to our inner voices. Although clergy would lead us in prayer and in sermon, you can't help but be reminded that we are human, first and foremost. It is the time we confront our humanity, and we all make mistakes, we all have shortcomings, and we need to think more mindfully and take the pause to forgive. Forgive yourself, forgive others. This is a time for atonement and for reconciliation.
I think we both live a very positive life with the intention to make others feel good.
You really do need to give yourself the patience to confront uncomfortable truths and move towards a lighter, freer existence.
Right. This comes back to personality type. I really do believe.
In what way?
I think that certain personality types are more apt to forgive quicker than others. I think there are people that we know that hold grudges, that have a long list of people who have wronged them. I don't keep that kind of score.
No, these in-between spaces are all about embracing peace and love and kindness and healing. And it is about self-discovery. And it really is important to think about who you are and how you want to show up.
Sure. How you show up has to matter to you. I think that when you're aware of your own presence, of how other people see you, I think it's an awakening for a lot of people. A lot of people, you wonder, do they have an emotional mirror, right? Are they able to see what they put out in the world?
So I also think it's not only personality type, but also your emotional intelligence.
Sure.
So that is being an empathetic person.
Right.
There are many significant moments that require patience. So you mentioned your haircut, and you said you're going to be in lots of photos. That significant moment is something we talked about a couple of episodes ago, is the anticipation of waiting for our first grandchild to be born.
Right.
Whether it be a mother-to-be, right? 9 months, you have to have...
On the inside.
Right? And you're thinking about, how is my life going to change? Like in so many ways. And that's a whole other episode of how your life changes once you become a parent. But it is a between moment, right? Of being pregnant, of watching our daughter blossom physically,
I don't know if I've shared yet, but I came to the realization that the human body was the very first 3D printer.
Yeah, I love that. Waiting for major life events or pivotal family milestones, you need to have patience throughout that process. It's a process.
Well, our whole life is a process, right? Once you become a parent, you're forever a parent, but your responsibility as a parent early on is much more. Your focus is all on the baby.
And you need a lot of patience.
Oh my gosh. It's a change that unless you experience it, you haven't experienced it.
Something during Lindsay's pregnancy, I really feel that we have savored the present and we are preparing and excited for the joy ahead.
Keeping things in perspective in whatever you do helps you enjoy the moment.
You need to have faith. And that is something that is so important during the pause.
Yeah, I think if you lose that feeling that it's all going to work the way you want it to, then chances are it's not going to. Your attitude and approach to those moments of pause and in between completely determines the outcome on the other side.
Another significant moment that requires patience is physical transformation or healing. And the things that came to mind for me are if you want to lose weight, that is a time that requires patience. And the same thing happens with someone recovering from an illness, right? Immense patience.
Yeah, I think that's more so as you get older because I think the body doesn't necessarily heal as quickly as a younger body, understandably so, right, as you age, which I think is why it's so important to remain healthy and active and moving throughout your life as you age so that you transition into your 70s, 80s, and beyond with a little bit of an advantage.
I kind of lump together weight or illness, but obesity is something that impacts health. Losing weight, the progress could be slow. And the same thing with getting better, no matter what the illness is. But we're talking about results for the long term. It's so important to slow down. How do you feel, mind, body, spirit, and soul? And to mindfully think about that so you can live your most fulfilled life in a healthy way. Facing the unknown, I think that's the biggest test of patience. We all don't know what's ahead, right? That's unsettling. But sometimes you just let everything unfold as it needs to. You said trust the universe, Robert. We need to manage fear and doubt.
Right, but you have to know when your concern is warranted, meaning like what can you change or what do you have control over versus what don't you have control over. And you have to be able to manage both of those situations because it's what you have control over. You may or may not be able to change quickly or when you need it to or as frequently as you would need it to. And certainly when you're at the mercy of others, you have even less control over outcomes sometimes because it depends on something else. And that may or may not fall your way. It may not go as quickly as you like, but you have to know when you can do something about it and when you just have to relax and trust the process and let it work through until your energies can have some sort of effect on what it is that you're trying to accomplish.
I really do believe that when you shift your energy and your expectations and or your environment, you can really reset anything you want. Something that really does require a lot of patience and are your relationships, whether it's repairing them or strengthening them, and everything in between.
Sure, because you're dealing with people and you don't have control over what others do.
But you need patience and compassion. All relationships are unique.
Yes, and I think relationships are constantly being tested. And I think that's part of the process because when you test a relationship, you find out the strength of it. and the resilience of it, right? There are times when you lose contact with someone for no real reason, right? That it's just kind of like life. And suddenly it's been a few years and you haven't seen or spoken to. And there are certain people that you can reach out to again, and it's like not a minute has passed and everything is just fine. And then there are other relationships where that distance of time just dissolves the relationship. And we've talked about why people come into your lives forever, and you have to be ready for that. You can't necessarily control others. And if they decide that the relationship personally, professionally, both has run its course, then you have to be okay with that. You have to learn how to digest that and compartmentalize it and put it in a spot where it belongs, because it's not in the same spot that it was. When you have to find a new spot for it that works for all involved. And it may not always be in that spot that you thought it would be.
Robert, as a videographer and as a master editor, you have to be more aware than most of us about the pause button.
That's not always the case. I think I have the ability as a videographer to choose what other people see. I can shape from what I get. If you want to be literal, I believe that you take it all in and then decide what stays and what goes. But until you bring it in, you don't know necessarily if it's important or not. So why not bring it in and decide?
But your editing is a skill. So that takes a lot of patience, because I cannot do that. I do other things that I have patience for that you may not, but I am fascinated by your talent and your skill when it comes to editing, because it is a creative process. You need a lot of patience to do what you do, especially if you capture that much footage and anything that you're documenting.
Well, of course, the same way that this podcast gets edited. You know,
well, I love learning new things, and it's a new skill or new hobbies that requires patience, whether it be a new language or starting an instrument. You wanted to take up guitar, and you said, yeah, I do, but I don't.
Well,
you want to play golf, and maybe you will.
I think I am going to embark on learning an instrument again. And just to let you know, because you do live here, it's going to be the harmonica.
Oh, goodness, that should be fantastic. Mastery takes time. I encourage so many people that I meet to embrace pickleball. We love it so much. Everything has a learning curve. So you need the patience to keep going. Even though you start to learn something as a beginner, you need to be patient. Patience is a virtue.
Yes, and most people, it doesn't develop until later on in life. Think about a toddler. Don't eat that yet. That doesn't work. Don't lick that lollipop yet. Don't. Wait.
Children are so innocent.
Save that cookie.
If you wanted to write a book, which I do, and I will, when you're creating a piece of art or even planning a podcast episode like this, there are ebbs and flows. And there are going to be sometimes periods of inspiration, and sometimes it's going to be stagnation. And that's what happens in the process of learning new things and creating new things. But in order to succeed and to get to that special something that you want, you need to be patient. So, importantly, embrace a mindset that not everything requires immediacy. Understand that good things take time, and the pause can lead to breakthroughs. You need to clear the mental clutter, set boundaries, to rest, to slow down, and to take moments, to take breaks, create some rituals into your routine to slow down. It really is a time for clarity. On a lighter note, I love pressing the pause button when I'm watching TV.
It's a great invention.
If the phone rings, I pause. If I need to think about something that I just heard, I hit pause.
I think you hit rewind more than pause.
No, I definitely hit rewind. But I also hit fast forward to go through the commercials. But the pause button, I find, like, if I don't want to miss something, that's another thing. Like, the pause is when you don't want to miss something. That's okay to give yourself that space. That's what I'm encouraging you all to do, because that's where we grow. And you need to be good to yourself. Always. You're allowed to pause. And I believe that this is where we can choose to be our very best selves.
I agree. I think you can't always be going at the same intensity all the time. And I think that if you don't take time to pause and reflect on where you are and where you've been, there is no way for you to know where you're going to go. You may or may not believe that, but I think certainly it's worth a try to add a few extra moments to your day, to your week, to your month that allows you to just, for however much time you can do it for, just to disconnect and to take account of what's going on in your life, and if that is working for you or not. So it becomes kind of a self-assessment time.
The best part is it will empower you for whatever's coming next.
Absolutely, because it allows you to think clearer and to be able to have what's next in focus. Because if you don't have what's next in focus, you may possibly miss it. So that wouldn't be a good thing. So make sure that you're in the best possible position to utilize that pause, however long that you choose to gift that to yourself, because I do believe that it is a gift.
Me too.
Holly, thank you again for being by my side through this and through everything else.
And I'm looking forward to an amazing year ahead, full of discovery and exploration and adventure and becoming grandparents.
Right.
There's just so much to look forward to.
And thanks for joining us on Between Over and Next, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to Between Over and Next. We hope you enjoyed this episode and found it meaningful and insightful.
If you value it to be worthwhile, please share it with your friends and family.
We would really appreciate it if you could take a moment to write a review for us. Your feedback will help us continue to create content that resonates with you.
And don't forget, in the show notes, you can find all the relevant links mentioned in this episode, from accessing free downloads to visiting our website and more.
If you have any questions or comments, we would love to hear from you. Simply send us an email. Our email address is hello@hollyandrobert.com. We're always excited to connect with our listeners.
So until next time, thank you again for joining us on Between Over and Next.
Thank you for listening to Between Over and Next, the podcast that navigates the twists and turns of life with courage, laughter, and a whole lot of inspiration. Tune in every Tuesday to hang out with Holli and Robert on your favorite podcast platform. Visit hollyandrobert.com and follow them on social media to ignite your passion and fuel your dreams.